Good morning, everybody. It's Jerry coming to you from Rythmia in Guanacaste, Costa Rica, very close to Tamarindo in a town of Hacienda Pinilla, at the Rythmia Life Advancement Center, a one-of-a-kind life advancement center in Central America. It's the only one of its kind throughout the world. We're the largest and arguably the best, or non-arguably the best, center of its kind in the world. We are a true life advancement center that uses a bunch of different modalities to bring about a soul merger during the week that you're here. What are those modalities? Ayahuasca, metaphysical teachings, meditation, breath work, yoga, the cleanse, just a beautiful food, one-on-one counseling, psychology, all into 1 week. What is the result of it? Well, to date, there's almost 15,000 people that have been through our doors. 15,000. And of them, 97 out of every 100 reported a life-changing miracle during their stay, and that miracle is a soul merger. At 6 months, 90.28, so 92, 920 out of 1,000 say that this was the week that changed their life, this life-changing week. Who comes here? Everyone, right? Like everybody from actors, actresses, athletes, musicians, business people, across the gamut, to regular people like you and me come here. Who's on our board of directors? We have a beautiful board of directors. Tony Coe from NYX Cosmetics, number 81 on the Forbes 100 most successful women in the world list. Michael Bernard Beckwith, the founder of Agape, Reverend Michael Bernard Beckwith. Martin Luther King, the civil rights leader and son of Martin Luther King. Earl Koski, a big international businessman. Jack Canfield, world record holder on book sales with 5 books on the New York Times bestseller list at one time. The amazing Cesar Millan, the dog whisperer. I know Kelly Slater, the world's greatest surfer. All on our board of directors. Why? Why are they there? Dr. Jeff McNary and myself, why are those people there? They're there because they had a miracle during their stay. And they want to spread the message of this medicine and what this medicine entails. It's just an amazing thing. So, over 2,300 TripAdvisor reviews. We're a top 10 resort on TripAdvisor. And every week I want to talk about a little, some things in this process about what happens to people after they come here. So when people are here and they experience this soul merger, directly thereafter or during their stay, they elect to become a beneficial presence on the planet. So what does that mean? They want to leave Earth in this incarnation better than when they got here. They want to affect the people that they love, or people in general, in a positive way as opposed to prior to their arrival. That's it. It's what being a beneficial presence is. You can tell when a beneficial presence walks into the room because the energy changes, right? So that is what becoming a beneficial presence is. Where can we be a beneficial presence, and what has the greatest impact? It's hard to tell while we're doing it, right? Because sometimes just being a great mom is a beneficial presence that affects the outcome of the world, right? Martin Luther King's mother, right? Created Martin Luther King, right? So like there's all different ways to be a huge beneficial presence. A lot of us only look at musicians and artists and business people as leading that charge and becoming this beneficial presence, but it's everybody who elects to do so. It's anyone who says, my life's mission is to change the people that I touch. That's it. That's what it is. Now, the amazing thing is that life becomes richer once we elect to do that, because we change our polarity. And by change our polarity, I mean we are receivers and we turn into givers. That's what happens in all of the juice. Not all of the juice, because receiving things is fun too, but the majority of the juice, that good feeling juice, comes from the gift of giving. It's not in the gift of receiving. Now, the media, the government, certain paradigms in entertainment believe, or lead us to believe, big business, that life is about receiving. So then you have people that their life revolves around getting the things that can give them the most. Whether that's government handouts, or the biggest, newest TV, or the greatest new fragrance, or the best new pair of shoes, or da 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 da. It goes to giving, to getting, as opposed to giving. And in that transition to the giving, we find that is where we feel our most complete, our most plugged in, our most a part of something. It all happens in this thing. Now, today, what's the name of this one, kiddo?
The Roas Less Taken.
The Roas Less Taken, number 3. So today, I want to talk about things that the medicine has said that deal with this transition in life, from changing our polarity, from being a receiver to being a giver, and then what are some of the strategies that we employ. Because the first thing is to become a master at the thing that we do takes about a decade. It just does for most people, whether that's playing basketball, to playing a guitar, to leading an orchestra, to becoming an oil painter, to working with acrylics, to pottery, to this, to that, to building a company, to building a church, to building a community, to creating, structuring a family that's super successful, is about a 10-year ordeal to master it and to get that feeling of mastery. Now, there are things we can do that accelerate it, and there are things we can do that slow it down. So I call that accelerants and deterrents. What are some of the things that accelerate it? Well, the first question, after you do this, after you have this merger, you pick that thing that you're not going to quit over, and you start having this discussion with you. The first thing that you want to find out is this, is what percentage of my potential do I want to realize? What percentage of my potential do I want to realize? So when I ask myself that question, it was always 100%. I want to get every drop of my ability and pour it into what I'm doing, so that I can have the greatest impact based on my inherent abilities and skill sets to affect those that are around me, to make their lives better, right? So a lot of us think that, hey, if I create a 70% effort, I'm going to have a 70% result, because that's linear logical thinking, right? So when I'm assessing how much do I want this, how badly do I want it, what am I willing to do to get it? And if I say 70%, I'm gonna tell you what I've discovered. Half efforts, 3/4 efforts, 80% efforts, 90% efforts do not equate to 50, 60, 70, 80, 90% results. And the way that I was taught to think about it was to think about it like a basketball rim. So 100% effort makes the air, the ball travels to the air over the hole. That's 100% effort. A 90% effort The rim is here, the basket is here, but the ball stops here. So a 90% effort gives a 0% result. Now, there are different things in life that do that, because there are bullseyes and all of these different things in different aspects of our life. That, in other words, if we try a little bit harder, we're going to do a little bit better. But usually in the bigger games, they're more akin to the basketball model, where a 90% effort might create a 0% result. So why can that happen? Well, the number one reason is that when we're given a 90% effort and we're consistently missing, the next thing we do is quit. Because without a spark of success, it feels like it's just completely unattainable. So that's why it's so important to sit down and assess that question that says, how much of my potential in regards to this undertaking do I want to realize? If that number for you comes back at anything less than 100, you probably shouldn't start. It's probably not the thing that rings your bell. It's a really, really, really important lesson, and it's a great question. So, like in your relationship with your significant other, or with your family, or with your children, what percentage of my potential do I want to realize within this relationship? What percentage of my potential do I want to realize within this work environment? Or you can apply it to anything. What percentage of my potential do I want to realize as an artist working with pottery, or as an artist working with oils, or as an artist working with watercolors? I highly doubt that you can speak to one of those artists and they're going to come up with a number less than 100. That's why when you see people who are involved in the arts, they're generally fully committed. But you can use that same analogy to your becoming a beneficial presence, and that becoming is your work of art. I had my life coach here this last week, and she said about rythmia, she said, this is your masterpiece. And it is. This is the culmination of everything I've ever learned being put into a project, and that is a full giving of myself. Now, a lot of people say, well, Jerry, that doesn't really line up with what I learned about surrender. And this is what I want to talk about today too, is that surrender does not mean quitting. Surrender generally means surrendering to the end result. So in other words, you don't surrender to your feelings. I don't feel like working out today. I don't feel like doing my dance recital today. I don't feel like doing my piano lesson today. I don't feel like doing my harp lesson today. I don't feel like doing my painting time today. I don't feel like doing my business acumen work today. I don't feel like doing my goal setting today. That's not it. The it is, I'm going to do these things to 100% of my ability. I'm going to call in all of the vibrational help that I can on my way to this thing. And if I fail, if I miss, I'm going to readjust and try again until I hear the nail banging on my coffin. Now that's surrender. I'm surrendering to the outcome, and I'm going to readjust. I'm surrendering. In other words, if I do all of this work and I miss, I don't quit. I don't say, well, I surrender to this. It's over. I failed. I'm doomed. I'm this. I keep going. Surrendering to the outcome is what you want to surrender to, and then you want to try again, right? Because that's what works. So in other words, fighting as hard as I can in this moment, and then surrendering to the outcome of the game. Leaving everything I have on that field and learning from my loss if I lose, and then learning from my win if I win. That is the art. Now, for the business people out there, and this is just for the business people, surrendering and being in flow, right? being in flow is the result of having built your road. It's watching a Michael Beckwith speak at Agape. It's seeing the Cesar Millan train a pet. It's become easy after all of the mistakes have been made and the lessons have been learned. That's when it gets easy. You know, very rarely is there such a thing as a savant. And a savant has the ability to track back to other lives and to pick up those things that were learned in other lives and put them to thing. I did watch a thing on 60 Minutes one time of a kid who at 3 years old walked up to a piano, never played for him, was able to play. You know, that can happen. It hadn't happened to me or anybody I know. Everybody that I know had to work at it. And the business people, I want to tell you something. So you can learn things from all range of experience, right? You can learn things from all types of characters and role models for different things. I had an acquaintance who was in the mafia, which happens, right? You know enough people in life. And his main thing, he used to say to me, misfortune comes in the door left open for it. Misfortune, this is for business people. Misfortune comes in the door left open for it. So what is when we're trying to build a business to become a beneficial presence, we have something called fiduciary responsibility or caretaker responsibility. What does that mean? And this is why business is so hard, because we have to be a cheerleader. We have to support people. We have to be a therapist in many ways. And at the same time, we have to be an engineer who's looking for faulty parts. So tying up your loose ends in your business and in your life is an important component to lessening the time it takes to get to the end result that you're shooting for. Tying up loose ends, meaning I don't understand, and I see people do this all the time. I don't understand why my air conditioning bill is so high, as their door is open with the air conditioning on. Tying up your loose ends requires vigilance. Vigilance requires watching the things that you do in your business and what you're building, and putting together structures that will alert you as to those doors that are open. Is it hard to do? It's one of the hardest things in the world to do and maintain a positive attitude at the same time. And if we know something, if we learn something, a positive attitude is a key component to your business success, a key component. So what's the lesson? The lesson is this, is that the problems will come in the door left open for them, and it's our job to close those doors while still maintaining a positive attitude. Hard to do. Yeah, it is hard to do. And what we know is that being an uber success, creating businesses or communities or churches or whatever that really affects the greatest amount of people is a super hard thing to do. That's why 2 out of 1,000 people, or 0.2% are considered ultra high net worth people. And those are people that created businesses that have a tremendous impact on the people whose lives that they touch, right? Or the Michael Jordans of the world, the Pelés of the world, the greatest musicians of the world, the greatest artists of the world had these kinds of things in common, that they would create this energetic repayment of what they gave to the world, right? So what is that lesson that I'm trying to tell you is that you have to have this great attitude, this can-do, that I know I'm going to get there, and at the same time, clean up your shop, keep your doors closed, watch your electric bill. Like all of that is a hard thing to do when you're trying to convince people and be a part of this beneficial environment that creates an energetic lift towards the thing that you're creating. So it requires both sides of you in order to do that. And that's why So few people are successful at doing it. But once you make the decision to do it, so I always like the Tina defense. And the Tina defense is that there is no alternative. Why am I doing this? Because there is no alternative. When you make that kind of commitment to this thing, now you've made a commitment that this is what I'm going to build. This is the kind of artist that I'm going to be. This is my masterpiece. This is what I'm going to give back to the world. Now, how can I get there the quickest? The first thing is, and I'm not talking about a shortcut, because there are no shortcuts. There is no shortcut. There are things that can bleed off a little bit of time, but they're not a shortcut. So what does that mean? Get a 10-year deal down to an 8-year deal. That's a huge savings, but it's not a shortcut. What most people are looking to do is try to get the effect of a 10-year journey in a year. That's impossible to do. Stop looking. Stop looking. But pick up on these little changes that can condense the time frames a little bit. A little bit. And that is because if you're constantly, let's say that we're baking cakes in here, and we keep baking cakes, but we leave the door open and we're not in here, and people come in and keep taking the cakes. Well, we have to keep making more and more and more and more when all we really had to do was close the door, right? So that's the part about vigilance, what vigilance is. And the other thing, my Tina defense thing, is that there is no alternative. What does that mean? That means that once I pick that thing, and I know that it's going to be a 10-year thing, and that every time that I quit and start something new, I'm setting the clock back to zero, then in my mind, there is no alternative. This is the choice that I made. This is what I'm sticking with. This is what I'm going for. Now I can bend that as through this way of looking at life, where I look at the picture and I look down at my plan, and I look at the picture and I look down at my plan. Those are changes in strategy, but it doesn't change where I'm trying to get to, right? So that's this part. But once I decide that is it, then boy, I keep that, because there is no alternative. Because if I quit at 5 years before I'm halfway there, I got to go back to zero and start again. So if you really understand how manifestation works, how the creative process works, and you really do get it, because there's math to it, it's been figured out, it's been proven, it's been tested, surveyed, and outcomes have been judged. There's only one way to do it. So if you believe in that and you know it, there is no alternative, because whether you're a year into your thing, 3 years into your thing, or 6 years into your thing, you don't want to start over from zero. So there is no alternative. And no alternative is a great thing. Why? One of the things that's taught in business school is to keep your options open till as late in the game as you can, right? And yet, that's a great manager tool for middle management. But if you take a look at the biggest successes who've ever lived, who've created these companies or ways of doing things that are new, different, and are game-changing, they didn't have options. They did the other thing. They bet everything on one thing and kept it going. And that truly is what I've learned, and that's been my takeaway, even from the medicine. So what am I going to leave you with this week is the same thing. How much of your potential do you want to realize? If it's not 100%, so how much of my potential do I want to realize in this neighborhood that I'm creating? If it's not 100%, I'm not in the right thing. So that's the first question. The second one is to tie up your loose ends, to make sure that your doors are closed, to make sure you're doing that. And tying up your loose ends has a lot to do with decreasing time frames and shaving off extra time to create the tightest timeline that you can create within reason for the thing that you're doing. And the last one is to realize that there is no alternative. Once you pick it and you start the journey, there is an alternative, but you have to trade in all that time that you used, right? Once you get that, you're going to, number one, you're going to pick your thing, your way of being from a more real and heart-centered place, because the only thing you can't get back here is time. Everything else can be replaced, and that is the truth. So when I say everything else, all material things can be replaced. If you take a look at the richest people in the world, they've all been broke a bunch. They've either started broke, been broke 3 or 4 times, da 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 da. So money is one of the easiest things to replace. What's not replaceable are people and time. So these things that are most important, once you realize that you're bargaining with them, then you'll be a lot more judicious in the thing that your heart picks as your way of being a beneficial presence. That's what I wanted to leave you with this week. Thank you for joining me. God bless you. God keep you. And we will